Hello everyone, how are we all doing? My name is Trevon from freestudiotime.com, and today I'm going to be cleaning up another rough mix for you all, so let's get straight into it. So first things first, I'm just going to play through this mix for you all, and we're going to listen for what needs to be done.
Yeah, the nights gotten colder, we're approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. Until the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as you waited. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
I've no sense of self, what can I rely? As I scream.
So first thing that really jumps out at me is that the vocals are a little bit louder than the beat. It doesn't really sound like my vocals are sitting in the mix properly. So that's one thing we're gonna have to address. Another thing on my vocals is they sound a little bit muddy. I'm noticing a lot of low mid presence. We're gonna have to go get that under control. I was also noticing a bit of harsh frequencies as well. That may have been from the exciter. All right, so also with the verbs and delays, if you notice in one part I was just rapping and in one part I was singing. But I was using the same effects on both of them, and I was kind of just turning some effects on and off with automation clips. The verbs and delays sound really good on the singing part, but as soon as the rapping comes in, the verbs and delays just don't sound good at all. So there's a few different ways we can fix that, but first let's come over here and fix up the vocal bus a little bit. So I just turned off the beat. Let's come look at some of these EQs. A little bit of subtractive EQ would probably be best needed here. So let's go ahead and take this out a little bit. Let's do it at about 12K, because with all that harshness I was just noticing, there's absolutely no reason I should be boosting up the high end like that. 2.5 dB of gain added to this 3295 hertz frequency, absolutely not. Let's go ahead and first off turn off this dynamic EQ and pull this down a little bit. I'm actually going to come back and listen to this. 533 hertz. This will probably be fine. Only thing I would say I need to do right here is just narrow out this band a little bit, and honestly I say let's go to about 450. That's where I get majority of my problems at. So we're at 450, negative 2.5 dB, and a dynamic EQ. I don't know why that was up in upward expansion mode. By the way, if you're not familiar with dynamic EQ, it's a specific type of EQ that either adds or attenuates frequencies whenever the EQ detects it. Using dynamic EQ gives you a greater level of frequency control. I use it in almost every single mix. Up here, if I was to press this button, this is the upward expansion mode, meaning it would be adding gain to this frequency as the EQ detects it. And then right here is the attenuation mode, which means it's going to be attenuating that frequency as it detects it. So the reason why this is so useful is because I'm still cutting this frequency, but guess what? I'm also attenuating it to the point where if there's anything that this EQ isn't able to handle, my attenuation mode on this EQ is handling it. And then on top of that, I can come over here and set whatever threshold that I want, which is really cool. But anyways, what we're gonna do, we're gonna come over here to this high med frequency and listen to it, see where we need to dip this out at.
Yeah, the nights gotten colder, we're approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. Until the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as you waited. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
6005 hertz frequency, we're gonna go ahead and dip that out. Let's go 6005 hertz, 6005 hertz, 6005 hertz. I'm gonna take it out by 1.2 decibels is totally fine. Let's go ahead and narrow out this Q. Let's do about a 5.9. What is this one at over here? This is a 7.1. Let's go for a bit larger than that. Let's go for about a 4.9. This should be fine right here. I'm not taking out the high end by too much. 0.7 dB. So as you can see right here, I took out the low end by 130 hertz. Now it is very important to add a nice high pass filter to your low end to ensure you're not really getting any muddiness inside of your mix, but taking out too much low end will cause your mix to sound very tinny, which is the last thing that you want. So always try to make sure you're not taking too much away from your low end. And I was noticing that I was getting a bit of tinniness from my vocals earlier, so let's go ahead and listen to it.
The nights gotten colder, we're approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. Until the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as you waited. Now I struggle searching.
So that's totally fine. Let's come over here and see what's going on with these compressors. So I'm using the dual compression method, the CLA 1176 with the CLA 2A. Let's see what type of gain reduction we're getting out of both of these compressors.
The night's getting colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. I'm to the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove.
So yeah, after looking at that, there is a lot wrong with these compressors. So if you don't know what these little graphs are right here, these are just for gain reduction. So on the higher peaks of my audio signal, both of these at least went up to -10. -10 pretty much means 10 dB of gain reduction. So that means on the higher peaks of my audio signal, I was getting 20 dB of gain reduction, which is absolutely insane. If you know what dual compression is, you would know that the faster aggressive compressor is meant for attacking the peaks of your audio signal. In this case, that aggressive compressor would be my 1176. But as you just saw, I was getting 10 dB of gain reduction and I was supposed to be getting anywhere from -2 to -4 dB. So that's really bad. Let's go over here and fix that. First off, I want to go for a bit of a lower ratio just because this is such an aggressive compressor. You don't really need to go for a high ratio. I'm actually going to turn the CLA 2A off a little bit. So actually, now that I think about it, I actually have a preset for using the 1176, even though it really just doesn't take that much to do. All right, so this is the preset that I made the other day. It's pretty simple. All I did on this preset was pretty much just make it a really fast release, really fast attack. The attack is slightly slower than the release. So on this specific compressor, it might confuse you a little bit. The goal here is to get this compressor to strictly attack the peaks of my audio signal. So that means whenever this knob goes up, it should be immediately coming back down. If you were looking at this right here earlier, that's not what was happening. This knob was staying up here for way too long. It actually seemed like it was compressing the majority of my dynamics, and that's why I was getting so much gain reduction. So that's why we have to make sure we're getting a really fast attack and a really fast release, so we can tell this compressor to quickly turn on and quickly turn off. That's why the release is so fast. I'm gonna leave the makeup gain alone for the output. Only thing we need to really focus on now is the threshold on our input. So let's just listen to the song and see how much we need to take out. I'm gonna go for about, I'd say about -3 dB max for the peaks on this audio signal right here. So let's get straight into it.
I'ma ball out even when I die. And oh no, I've been fitted all night, moving so slow. I've been fitted all night. That's just moment I realize, as I scream out loud and I wonder why. Guess that's just moments living on a rush. And I realize, as I scream out loud and I wonder why. Guess that's just moments living on a rough side. Count some digits, get a lot higher. I'ma ball out even when I die.
So I'm coming across a problem with this compressor. You remember how I told you that I have rap and singing vocals on this song? Well, this compressor is reacting differently to rap vocals and the singing vocals. So on my rap vocals, it's a lot easier to compress the peaks of my audio signal because there's no sustained material. But all you do when you sing is just sustain notes. So the reason why that's such a big issue is because I want to go a bit more aggressive on this compressor for the peaks of my audio signal, specifically on the rap part. But when it comes to the singing part of this song, I want to like let this compressor breathe a little bit and like let off. Since there's so much sustained material, this compressor is really going to pick up those peaks quite easily. And in a majority of the cases, what this compressor is actually going to be doing is just compressing the dynamics of my vocals and not the peaks. But you have to remember, we already have another compressor doing that. So what that means is we're just getting a lot of muddiness from too much compression in the mix. So what we're going to do, we're going to strictly focus on the rap vocals right now. So when I said I was looking for about 3 dB of gain reduction earlier, this is what I was talking about.
The night's getting colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. I'm to the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter.
So yeah, we're only going to be focusing on our rapping part for the meantime. We're going to go into the singing part later. So I don't know if you noticed it or not, but this needle was finally just snapping up and down just like how we needed it to. That means it was specifically compressing the peaks of our audio signal, which is really nice. We need to make sure that this compressor is not compressing the majority of our audio signal. That's probably where a lot of the muddiness was coming from earlier, because we're doing some over compression. We need to make sure these compressors are working as in tandem as they can possibly be. So let's go over on this compressor and check what we can be doing.
The night's getting colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. I'm to the point in questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
I've no sense of self, why can I rely? As I scream out.
So this compressor actually looks fine. I'm getting about 7 dB of gain reduction out of this compressor consistently, which is really good. So that means altogether, I'm getting about 10 dB of gain reduction from both of these compressors, which is really cool. One thing I can try doing is pulling this knob down a little bit just so I can get a tad bit more compression. Instead of 10, I'd like to do like 12.
Yeah. The night's getting colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. I'm to the point in questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad. The night's getting colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. I'm to the point in questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant.
So I saw the needle graze -10, which means I'm getting close to about 12 dB of gain reduction, which is totally fine with me. Now, sometimes I like to throw a different compressor than the CLA2A just because you can't get the ratio that you want. This compressor is automatically set to a 3:1 ratio, which is kind of trash in some songs, mainly just because in rap songs you want to have a bit of a higher ratio. But in this case, just because these compressors are working so well in tandem, I'm going to leave it alone. All right, everyone, so let's come over here to this second EQ I have and let's see what's going on. So first off, there's a bunch of crazy things I can see I just need to change without even listening to it. First off, this, I don't know what's going on right here, but I just need to go ahead and take this right out. Let's bring this down to 12,000. Let's go ahead and take it out by about 1.5. That should be fine. This right here, I do not need this at all, so let's go ahead and take that out. If I need it later, I can come back and add it back. I know for a fact I don't need this right here. I know I don't probably need a dynamic EQ right there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dip this out. Everything else, we're gonna have to take a nice listen. 596, I know I need a little bit more work in my low end. Here's something that normally works for me, because I normally have like the same problem frequencies to deal with all the time. It's between 450 and then it's going to be somewhere around like 500. It's going to be like 5 something. It's going to be like 580 something. And sometimes I have trouble with the 320 hertz frequencies, somewhere around the 320 hertz range. I'm going to go ahead and look around there later when I go to listen to the song. And I might need to take 1 or 2 frequencies out up here. Let's just listen to what we need to adjust for right now. All right, everyone. So the surgical EQ normally takes a little bit more time, so I like to skip over it and just explain to you what I did for the adjustments. So for the low end, what I did was pretty much the same thing as I did on the first basic EQ. I just made it a little bit lower just so I can let a little bit more of my low end seep into the mix, make my voice sound a little bit more fuller and not thin as it was sounding before. Second thing that I did was come over to these frequencies right here. I took this frequency out, 450 hertz, mainly just because this frequency presents a lot of boxiness. You really want to make sure you're handling that boxiness because that's what's going to make your mixes sound really weird, really muddy. I took it out by -6.4 dB and then I added the attenuation mode to my dynamic EQ. So I'm making sure I have this frequency absolutely under control. I was noticing some funny sounds from this 304 hertz frequency, so I took it out by -3 dB. Also, pay attention to how narrow the Q is on both of these. Last things last, I was also noticing some funny frequencies from the 652 hertz frequency, so I took it out by 1.7 dB. I didn't take it out as much as I did these other ones, mainly just because the higher you get up here, the more of the important vocal information that you're going to be starting to tweak around with, so you want to make sure you're making very light adjustments. Also, I threw on a nice dynamic EQ and attenuation mode. Then I came over here to a similar frequency before in the first EQ, which was this. It was actually at 5866. I went over here to 5866 and I took out 1.6 dB of gain. Had the Q at 5.9, and the EQ before I took out my frequency at 6005, so pretty similar ranges. I just want to make sure I'm not taking out too much. And I did the same thing with my high end. I took it out by a very little bit just because I noticed I was getting a bit of harshness. Honestly, I can probably let back off this high end a little bit. Let's go to, instead of 1.5, let's go to about 0.8. And that should be totally fine. Let's go ahead, take a listen to this EQ.
The nights getting colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. I'm to the point in questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
Alright, so that doesn't sound too bad. So since I'm using all this subtractive EQ, it's taking a bit away from the presence of my vocal. How we're gonna add that presence back is by a bit of harmonic distortion. So first off, we can use an exciter, which pretty much just adds harmonic distortion to the higher frequencies of your audio signal, or we can use saturation, which adds harmonic distortion to the majority of the frequencies in your audio signal. So let's get over here to make it some adjustments. First thing I like to do is make sure this exciter isn't defined, because it says right here, gentle high mids frequency bump. The high mids of your audio signal is where you'll find a lot of the presence inside of your voice. So playing around with the high end sometimes will be really nice to getting really good sounding mixes. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make this strictly tube saturation. First thing I want to do is strictly make that tube. Everything doesn't look too bad. I could probably let off this exciter by a very little bit. Let's go to about 7.0. Actually, let's go to about 6.5. We're on classic. Let's go to the high end. I'm gonna put this 100% tape, and where I'm at right here, I'm at 61. That's kind of insane. Let's go down to about 50% in the mix. And this one's gonna be 100% tape. This is the high end. This is my low mid, and this is my high end harmonic distortion. So I have this at 100% tape. Let's turn this down a very little bit. I'm gonna go to about 4.5, 55. Let's go to about 40% in the mix, and we're gonna see how this sounds. Actually, let me turn this tone down by a very little bit. All right, so I just finished with the exciter. First thing I did was make sure I turn up my harmonic distortion to 100%, and I pretty much just swept through these frequencies right here just to see what my high mids sound best with, like what harmonic distortion gives my high mids the presence that I really need from it. This area right here is where I was getting the best harmonic distortion, to the point where it made my vocals sound a little bit more present. So I used this and I turned it down to about 60% in the mix. Over here on the high end, I still have it at 100% tape. I turned my harmonic distortion up a quite decent amount, and I just turn it down in the mix. The thing about the high end is kind of funky. You still want to gently feel the high mid harmonic distortion, but the thing about it is, like, you want your harmonic distortion from the high mids to be a little bit more present than the high end, because right here is where it's really easy to get a bit of harshness into your mix. So I'm just gonna let you hear how this exciter sounds. I'm just gonna turn it on, off, let you hear what it's actually doing.
The nights getting colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bored and I don't test by the car. I'm to the point in questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
So yeah, as you just heard, the exciter makes everything sound a little bit more exciting. It's adding a little bit more presence to our vocal that we weren't able to get out of our EQ because we were noticing so many crazy frequencies. So that's really nice. We were able to come in with an exciter and get that taken care of. Next thing, we have our Vocal Synth Pro. Vocal Synth Pro is pretty much just like a pretty cool VST that allows you to make a bunch of different sounds, but I really don't think I need that here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete it. And last thing that we have to do is Soothe 2. So let's come over here at Soothe 2. What is going on with Soothe 2? First thing I notice, I'm getting a lot of depth. I definitely do not need this much depth, so I'm going to turn this depth down to about 3. This is the default settings, 3.0 depth. If you don't know what Soothe 2 is, it's a dynamic resonance suppressor, meaning it's going to detect each specific sound wave inside of your audio signal and find the resonance within those sound waves, suppress them down. The ultimate result is a clear, crisp sound, a lot clearer than it may have been before. This is really nice for using on vocals that may have been slightly distorted, or there may have been a bit of background noise present in the mix you wanted to get taken care of. Soothe 2 will absolutely take care of that for you. It's such a nice plugin to use. Let's just go for a basic Soothe. Basic Soothe is pretty much the exact same thing. So I'm gonna turn that up to 100%. I like to make sure that I have my Soothe up in the mix to about 6K so I can take care of some of that sibilance that may be seeping in through the mix. Right here, my low ends, I was definitely noticing a bit of funky things going on in the low ends. So let me see. This is 235. This is the end of the actual peak. It ends at 1K. I don't need it to be that wide. I need it to be a little bit smaller than that. So let's see. This is about what I need right here. And honestly, I can probably turn up the sensitivity on this by just a very little bit. And last thing I want to do is adjust the selectivity a little bit. So a few things about setting this up. I just want to make sure I have a nice fast attack, nice slower release. Actually, I could probably do about 1.5 or like 2 on this release. So the reason why I put my selectivity at 4.0, it says up here, adjust how selective the processing is. Less selectivity results in more overall tone shaping, more effective on noisy sibilants. Pretty much meaning the higher you turn this thing up, the crazier the processing is going to get, the more artifacts that's going to seep into your mix. So you want to make sure you don't have too much of it, but at the same time, you also want to still make sure that the Soothe 2 is shaping the tone of your actual audio signal. So you don't want to turn it too low either. I find 4.0 to be a really nice balance. Same for sharpness over here. I really wanted to make sure I was still just shaping the tone of my audio signal without going a bit too extreme with the processing. So let's come over here, listen to what I did with Soothe 2. I'm actually going to turn this down in the mix a little bit. I'm going to turn it down from 100%. Let's go to about 35% and see how it sounds like right there.
The nights gotten colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little butter, now I'm test by the car. Until the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
I've no sense of self, what can I rely?
So yeah, the Soothe 2 made everything sound a little bit better, but there's a few things that we can add to this mix to make it sound even more better. For the meantime, let's just turn off the Soothe 2. I'm going to add two things. First off, I'm going to add a doubler, see how it sounds. And then if it still sounds kind of weird, I'm just going to add fresh air. Fresh air is kind of like another exciter plugin. But first off, let's just add this doubler. So I'm just going to add my basic doubler presets on here. The doubler pretty much just makes doubles of your vocal on all sides of the stereo image. You can adjust those doubles in the stereo image to your liking in order to make your mix sound a lot wider, but also fuller, more present. Let's go ahead and listen to how this doubler sounds from these adjustments that I just made. Actually, another thing that I need to do is go ahead and dip out this doubler by just a tad bit. Mainly just because if I didn't dip out the high end a little bit, my doubler would be a little bit more present in the mix than my actual vocals, because I dipped out the high end on the rest of my vocals, so I would just have to kind of like, you know, replicate that same thing here.
The nights gotten colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little butter, now I'm test by the car. Until the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
Well, that sounds okay. Let me just go ahead and add the fresh air, just because I know I want to. It just makes stuff sound a little bit better. So actually, instead of adding some fresh air, I'm just going to add a sound goodizer. So if you don't know what a sound goodizer is, it's pretty much just a mixture of saturation, limiting, and compression. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it down about right here. So let's see how the mix sounds with the sound goodizer on versus off. And then we're just going to come back and implement all these other plugins that we just added back into the mix and see how everything sounds together.
I slowly got a little butter, now I'm test by the car. Until the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
I've no sense of self, what can...
So let's go ahead and add all these VSTs back into the mix, the doubler stereo and the Soothe 2. And actually, let's just go ahead and add the reverb and delay back into the mix as well. Just see how everything sounds for right now.
Yeah. The nights gotten colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little butter, now I'm test by the car. Until the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as a waiter. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
So the last thing I need to do is make sure my vocals are sitting in the mix the way they're supposed to. In order to do that, I have a little side chaining method that I like to use with either a limiter or SUV 2. This method is called vocal ducking. What it involves us doing is ducking the beat behind our vocals. Right now I have Fruity Limiter on here. I do not want Fruity Limiter on here. I want a SUV 2, so I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this Fruity Limiter right here. I'm gonna actually add a SUV 2. Then I have a nice preset for this. All right, so now I have it on SUV 2. What I want to do is change this to hard. I'll bring this down to about, let's start off at about negative 2.0. I want to take this band all the way down. I want to come over here, band shelf, and I want to extend this band all the way out for the entire frequency spectrum. Boom, extend that out. Boost this up a little bit more right there. Let's go about a 3.8 on the sharpness. I'm going to turn this all the way up. This right here. I have that as fast. I'm gonna have this as slow.
Yeah, the nights gotten colder, approaching the fall. I slowly got a little bolder, now I'm test by the call. I'm to the point of questioning the essence of my own nature. That's why it's nice to sit and write about your life on the paper. Ever feel like you're a candy that's been drained of its flavor? That's how I felt when working shifts and little tips as you waited. Now I struggle searching endlessly for constant relief. And all these bad habits, I wish I could shove them beneath.
I've no sense of
Alright everyone, that is the first part of cleaning up this song. We just fixed up the rap part of the song. Now we need to come back and fix the singing part of this song so everything sounds good together. I'm actually going to be releasing that video later on. Just stay tuned for it. But in the meantime, everyone, if you're a beginner and you're interested in learning how to mix vocals with stock VSTs inside FL Studio, make sure you hit the video down below so I can give you a detailed step-by-step guide on each specific step of the process to make sure you understand everything as clearly as you need. After watching this video, I can guarantee you will be a lot better of a mix engineer than before you came. So make sure you hit the video down below, everyone. But alright everyone, I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. If you did, make sure to hit like and make sure to hit subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next one.